hello everyone and good afternoon. Thank you for being with us today to participate in this webinar organized by eTwinning Europe. My name is Marta and I'm very happy to support this webinar today. The eTwinning online seminar Teaching from a Distance with eTwinning comes to give a helping hand and possibly lend an ear through exploring the role of the students in distance learning and presenting effective techniques and strategies the teacher can use to engage and assess learners in the online classroom. So this is our topic for today. Some practical information for you. This webinar will be recorded and the recording will be available on the YouTube eTwinning channel as of tomorrow. If you have questions, please post them in the chat and we'll have a Q&A session at the end to address them. I'm very happy to introduce our speakers today. So Angelique Kojirooki is a primary school teacher. She came across eTwinning in 2012 and has been coordinating the eTwinning and Erasmus project ever since. She became an eTwinning ambassador in 2015 and she's moderating the Creative Classroom eTwinning group for the second year now. Natalia Tizi, our second speaker today, is a teacher of English. She has been an eTwinner since 2005 and eTwinning ambassador since 2015. Currently, she is the Safety and eTwinning School Coordinator at the 10th Heliopolis Primary School in Athens, in Greece. Also, this period, Angelique and Natalia co-moderate the MOOC Bridging Distance and in-School Learning, blended learning in practice in the Teacher Academy. But without further ado, Natalia, Angelique, I'm really happy to pass you the floor. I will upload your presentation.
Hello, Marta. Hello, all. Thank you for inviting us here. As Marta said, I'm Angelique, and this period I collaborate a lot with Natalia for several online events here in eTwinning and in the Teacher Academy. And we are here with Natalia to present you the teaching from a distance with eTwinning. Natalia is going to read you the agenda of today's seminar. Your microphone, Natalia, your microphone. Okay, perfect.
First, I would like to thank CSS for the invitation, and I would also like to welcome you all to this eTwinning webinar. Let's move on to the agenda. Okay. So I hope everybody can see clearly. Let's see exactly what we'll do. We'll explore together the challenges of teaching remotely and what professional development opportunities eTwinning can offer to aid teachers in dealing with a long and strenuous multitasking teaching situation. We'll provide you with a theoretical background of effective online classroom management and present teaching and assessment techniques, strategies, and tips that can turn the online classroom into an engaging learning environment with eTwinning. We'll also share practical tips for lesson planning with an impact on social and emotional learning. So let's before proceeding, I would like to tell you that we count a lot on your participation and response to the interactive tasks that we have prepared. Let's start with a crucial point, that of the challenges of remote teaching. We would like to invite you to reflect on your teaching remotely, either at the beginning, a year ago, or the previous trimester, or even now, if you're still teaching remotely. And would like ask you to focus on the challenges. What makes online teaching difficult or ineffective for you? Which challenge is the first that crosses your mind? Which challenge was or still is the most difficult one to overcome? there is a canvas that you can, yeah, thank you, Martha. Thank you very much. Martha has just added the link in the chat box for you to post your answer on the canvas. We are looking for the most difficult challenge that you had to overcome, the most difficult challenge of remote teaching that you had to overcome. Don't forget to add your name and your country. We'll get back to the canvas to check out the challenges you've posted. In the meantime, let's tell you what we have come up, what challenges we have come up, not against, but based on a number of resources and testimonials. We have come up with a list of challenges teachers have been facing in remote teaching. Lack of the in-person connections and relationships teachers and students have in the brick-and-mortar school. Technical issues. Many students are struggling to adapt to remote learning. Digital access and connectivity remain a pervasive equity issue. Familial dynamics. Stay-at-home orders have magnified existing problems in familial dynamics. Lack of physical teacher's presence. When learning online, students don't have the benefit of a teacher's physical presence, moving about the room and monitoring learning engagement. Need for appropriate and timely feedback. Providing clear, specific, instructive feedback is critically important to good teaching. It's also difficult and often time-consuming, especially in a hybrid or remote setting. Lack of fun. The teacher is under a lot of stress to cover the coursebook, check absentees, assess and give homework. There's no room for fun under pressure. Lack of engagement and discourse that take place in the in-person classroom. Many of the challenges of online learning stem from student engagement. Keeping students on track and engaged is fundamental in any classroom setting, physical, remote, or hybrid. All teachers have times when they struggle with getting their students to participate. Simply asking students to be a part of the lesson doesn't cut it. And need to maintain motivation. It is admittedly more difficult for teachers to motivate students remotely. Students' online learning independence during the online class, but mainly outside of video conferencing and other technology tools, students do the bulk of online learning independently. Low student attendance. There may be early leavers, late arrivers, or those skipping online classes altogether. Need for a different set of communication skills. In the online classroom, teachers need to improve their communication skills if they are to maintain effective communication with the students, foster engagement, and inspire collaboration. Need for structure and support in order for students to self-regulate their behavior. Possibly because of the difficulty in interpreting emotions, disruptions to online classes can be challenging to manage. Disruption can be direct, such as abusive emails, or less direct, such as student posting material in the chat, or during online collaboration with international partners, which renders collaborative time unproductive and at the same time offends or annoys others. Need to address difficult discipline problems such as cheating and plagiarism, which are often amplified with the world at the students' fingertips and their teachers remaining distant. Well, maybe we can take a look at the canvas. As far as I can see, some of the participants here have posted technical challenges. Yes, this is the issue that comes again and again. Low student attendance, that's true. Thank you, Simona. Thank you, Ignacio. ICT problems. Okay, the fact that there is no personal contact. You can go on posting on the canvas the challenges that you have been facing. Let's return to the presentation. Okay. These are the challenges, but what can we do to deal with these challenges? There aren't any easy solutions. Most active eTwinners know that eTwinning is famous for the professional development opportunities it provides, mainly through the eTwinning Live platform. With reference to blended learning and remote teaching, there are learning events and online seminars offered by eTwinning. Let's start with, sorry. Sorry. We're at professional development. Okay, that's it here, learning. It's moving on its own. It's haunted.
Yeah, I think you need to click only once because otherwise it will go. Okay, no worries.
So we were talking about professional development opportunities, and I was talking about the learning events on blended learning offered by eTwinning. There is the webinar series 2021, Exploring Blended Learning, which is a 3-day webinar series on blended learning models, and consists of 2 webinars and some asynchronous activities which aim at introducing participants to the topic of blended learning. Various eTwinning online seminars, now called eTwinning webinars, as far as I have found out, they have been organized to help teachers cope with remote teaching, for example, remote work and personal data protection back in September, if I'm not mistaken. Besides the one that we're attending now, Teaching from a Distance with eTwinning, recently there has been a Teacher Academy Open webinar on blended learning entitled Blended Learning, Creating Your Unique Blend. Actually, the recording is available on the School Education Gateway YouTube channel, and it is highly recommended. Bridging Distance and In-School Learning, Blended Learning in Practice MOOC, which is a 4-week well-structured course that will demonstrate the benefits from blended learning and help teachers to design and plan for blended learning as part of their usual practice. eTwinning at Home and Back to School eTwinning group. You can join the group to get inspired by the work of other eTwinners and find ways to address distance teaching. For inspiration and good practices, you can also turn to the eTwinning portal, where you can find articles by eTwinners who share their experience of remote teaching and give concrete examples of how a teacher/eTwinner can manage to handle these challenging teaching and learning conditions. For example, the last article is entitled eTwinning in Spain, Bringing School at Home. Teaching from a distance with eTwinning, and let's turn to Angelique, who will enlighten us about online classroom management.
Classroom management is probably one of the most important responsibilities educators need to deal with in any number of learning environments. Researchers define classroom management as the multi-phased actions a teacher takes to create, support, and facilitate the goals of instruction and learning in the classroom, or as a preventive activity that results in decreased discipline problems. Both in physical and online classrooms, partner teachers must deal with unexpected events, and as we all face, and control students' behavior using effective classroom management strategies to create a positive climate and provide students with more opportunities to learn. The recent school closures, as well as the shift from face-to-face to online and remote teaching and learning, proved to be the hot topic of this year. The majority of teachers have been trained neither to use the classroom management techniques that distance teaching requires, nor to adapt the ones they have already used in the physical classroom. But eTwinning has tried since the beginning of the pandemic in 2020 to accommodate all the newly created needs for a teaching and meeting platform that can bring the excitement of school at home, thus to provide ways of effective classroom management. When we talk about classroom management in eTwinning, we have to have in mind specific features and aspects, challenges to face, strategies to use effectively, techniques and tools to use, assessments to get the needed feedback. But Natalia is going to speak to you, to tell you about these features and aspects and, of course, the challenges we face. And,
turn on the mic and the camera. Okay,
okay.
I'm here. Both in the physical and the remote classroom, students should be provided with the learning opportunities to develop the skills required for independent problem solving and lifelong learning. To this effect, the learning objective set, the techniques and strategies employed should be selected with the learners in mind. Does that ring a bell? Yeah, I suppose it does. Because eTwinning projects are student-centered, or at least they should be, with the student in the spotlight, with the student in the driver's seat, like this little gentleman over there on the slide. But that sounds a bit scary, doesn't it? Student independence strikes most teachers / non-eTwinners as a strange issue, but it shouldn't. Learners should take more responsibility for their own learning, particularly when they have to learn remotely and independently from home. Creating learner independence involves gradually progressing along a continuum. At one end of the continuum, the learner relies heavily on a teacher. At the other end, the learner is capable of following instruction without constant supervision. Moving across this continuum takes time. It is accomplished in small steps. According to Gladstone, even learners as young as 6 can start moving along this continuum towards independence. It is all about teaching the skill of learning to learn and creating the right conditions. To create the conditions to take ownership for their own learning. So to do that, to take ownership of their own learning, the students should be aware of their learning styles, namely the ways they learn best. Such knowledge empowers learners. At the beginning of an eTwinning project, the teacher provides the tools, for example, learning style surveys, to help students identify their learning style and preferences. And the teacher outlines simple techniques and strategies that match the students' learning styles. The students should be fully aware of the learning objective set. The teacher has to make the learning goals clear, the way we do at the beginning of an eTwinning activity or an eTwinning project. The students should be confident to experiment with new tasks. The teacher has to create a safe learning environment, build rapport and trust, and encourage learners to believe in themselves so as to give things a go, even if they make one mistake or two or even more. Who cares? This is not the issue. The students should learn to reflect on the objectives and whether they have managed to achieve them or not. The teacher has to model the process and result of reflection to teenagers. That's possible with teenagers, and then give them the freedom to set their goals and assess achievement on their own. With younger learners, teachers should be very specific and pinpoint the expected result. An example of student independence in the online classroom is the students' active participation in eTwinning projects, manifested in logging in and commenting on other TwinSpace members' walls, interacting in the chat room, or exchanging messages in order to collaborate and complete project tasks, or doing that just for fun. All the above done out of the student's own initiative. The teacher has not assigned these tasks as homework. He or she has simply drawn the framework. Student independence leads us to student agency. And this in return, leads to student engagement. Okay. Sorry for that. I don't know. There's something wrong with my keyboard. Student agency. Yeah, it's okay now. Thank you. Student agency.
Student engagement. Okay. Can you see?
Yeah, that's that's the right one. Yes. Student agency refers to learning through activities that are meaningful and relevant to learners, driven by their interests and often self-initiated with appropriate guidance from teachers. To put it simply, student agency gives students voice as well as choice in how they learn. When students are agents in their learning, that is when they play an active role in deciding what and how they will learn, they tend to show greater motivation to learn and are more likely to define objectives for their own learning. What is student engagement? How does it lead to successful online learning? Engagement is defined as our emotional involvement or commitment to something. We could be engaged with an idea, a cause, or of course, we could be engaged with our own learning. When it comes to student engagement, teachers need to use the science of motivation and design into the very fiber of their virtual courses. eTwinning can play a crucial role. It gives purpose to classwork because the result is posted in public view in the twin space, because the students will forward the first draft of their work to their partners, and it needs to be thorough and done to the best of their abilities. What it takes to engage students in learning, eTwinning has already accomplished it. In eTwinning, students feel confident, that they feel they have the ability to be successful in doing the activity required. They feel connected to the other members of the class and to the other members of the project through community building tasks. They feel cared about by people whom they respect, and they feel like working in a safe learning environment. They consider the task at hand to be interesting, valuable to them, useful to their present lives, and hopes and dreams for the future. Now, let's take a look at the techniques that work in the online eTwinning classroom. Preparing a list, the techniques are not in the same order as I'm reading this slide. Preparing a list of project activities and inviting students to take their pick, or allowing them to decide in what order they would like to do the activities. That's a technique leading to student independence. Giving them the freedom to choose and justify their choice holds them accountable for completing the task and gives them a sense of ownership of their own learning. Passing the floor to students. The teacher encourages the students to suggest activities for a given topic or theme, or encourages them to become tutors, turn on their camera, share their screen, and sort of teach their classmates, peer teaching, or teach their international peers in pairs or groups, or with one project class teaching another. Working breakout rooms. Using a random group generator, the teacher can arrange students into random transnational or national groups. Alternatively, the teacher may arrange the students in mixed ability groups so they can benefit from diversity. And community building tasks can also be arranged in the eTwinning online classroom. Assigning leaders to class groups. Initially, the teacher needs to identify students who exhibit leadership skills, such as trying to get others to talk in breakout rooms, asking questions, responding when the teacher invites suggestions. Then the next step would be that project teachers can form a project leadership team and inform its members about their responsibilities, which would be leading breakout rooms, contributing to class discussions, identifying other students who should join the team, answering questions in the chat that the teachers might have missed, evaluating with the teachers how the project is going and what changes might need to be made to improve the eTwinning project they're working on right now. Using examples and models demonstrate how to apply a skill or strategy to learners is very important so that learners can observe before they try it on their own. It would be advisable for teachers to record their modeling and post it for all project students to view multiple times. They can post on the twin space and for all project students to view. In a remote learning context, crystal clear models are invaluable. Using gamified activities for learning in reinforcement and engagement. After sharing information and working with an eTwinning partner on a topic, project teachers could use games to assess the project students' newly acquired knowledge. Formative assessment in the form of games is both productive and fun. Online sessions with project classes could be arranged, and games could be selected based on how appropriately they can aid in solidifying the acquisition of new knowledge. Using ebooks, YouTube clips, videos with embedded comprehension check questions, either in class at the teacher space or handing them as homework, for example, or work on the twin space for project students to do at their own pace, and then they can discuss them in a forum with our international partners. Using pictures is another very engaging technique. To find pictures to use in online classes, teachers can visit stock photo sites or search websites where educators share pictures, or even take their own photos. For example, we have teachers can also design activities that would require students to go out in the street, in the park, and take photos themselves. Using anchor charts and other visual reminders to help students self-regulate, such as an anchor chart that expresses expectations for collaboration in breakout rooms. On the slide here, you can see an anchor chart on online norms and expectations. You can also see an example of an eTwinning learning journal and a letter, which takes us to writing. Writing improves learning by consolidating information in long-term memory. The process of writing improves a student's ability to recall information, make connections between different concepts, and synthesize information in new ways. In the online eTwinning classroom, writing can be used as a learning technique. For example, students can write letters to update their partner's parents on the activities they have done, or the students can keep a learning journal where they record and reflect on their performance data. That's keeping track of growth, which in turn works as a motivational factor. These are not the only cases we can use writing. We can also use writing in short reflection activities at the end of class or at the end of an eTwinning activity. The students reflect on the process of the activity and type their answers in the chat box, or use a web tool, for example, a Google form. The student worksheet entitled Let Me Think, you can see on the right of the slide, can be modified and incorporated in any training project activity. Weekly check-in surveys can also ensure involvement and metacognitive skills development, particularly if class time is limited and the reflection activity ends to be done during the break.
Natalia, sorry if I interrupt you, but some participants are saying in the chat that they cannot see the slides. Which slide do you see on your desktop?
Number 11, they say. Okay. This is number 11, yes. That's
number
true.
11, correct. No, because someone is saying in the chat that they cannot see, but I guess maybe it's their problem, because we are at 11 indeed. Okay, sorry.
Okay. No problem at all. We mean to share things with fellow eTwinners, so if they can't see it, it's an issue. I was talking about reflection activity worksheet. You can see also another example of a reflection activity worksheet, the simple one with the emojis. On the slide, you can see an example of the simpler worksheet used by 80-year-olds to reflect on the project activities, pinpoint on the one they like best, and explain why. Being young, they are invited to use their mother tongue too, and to ensure engagement in the activity, emojis are used to make the reflection look fun. Actually, it was fun. The kids have added their own emojis too. Another example is that of the breakout rooms. This is a screenshot of the students working in the online classroom in pairs or groups of 3. They're studying a twin space page of the media literacy activity they are asked to work on as part of their eTwinning project. The activity is based on the material provided by the media literacy and disinformation group. It's the material for 7 to 9-year-olds. An example of the brain breaks I mentioned before, in the online classroom, the children play within reach. They're stretching to reach items that the teacher or another classmate show on camera. Here, a third grader is the presenter in the online classroom, and she's asking her classmates if there is a toothbrush within reach. Of course, most of them have no toothbrush, no matter how much they stretch or balance on tiptoe.
Strategies should be of a respected importance when trying to manage the online teaching environments. First and foremost, an effective online classroom should be based in 3 techniques that elementary teachers use in brick-and-mortar classroom environments: build a community and apply an engaging environment. And we all know, and Natalia mentioned earlier, how we do it when developing an eTwinning project. Establish routines and know each student personally. Taking into consideration all these techniques, teachers can expand them when facilitating an online learning environment by engaging learning experience. It is suggested for teachers and even more for eTwinners to take their time, understand what their students' interests are, build an online classroom management plan that is tailored to their audience, and provide them multiple opportunities for interactive learning. Build a community among students, because Pavlov and Pratt state that the key to the learning process are the interactions among students themselves, the interactions between teachers and students, and the collaboration in learning that results from these interactions. These appropriate relationships between people, purposes, and processes are in need when using technology to enhance face-to-face classes, blend face-to-face and virtual interaction in a hybrid forum, or create fully online courses. eTwinning does help partner teachers to build a community among students, even in the times of the school closures. Projects TwinSpace and offer tools provide the online environment both for the teachers and students to interact in the engaging community. Establish norms and routines. An important component of effective classroom management in any learning environment is the establishment of clear and transparent rules and routines, because researchers state that when rules and routines are well established and positively stated, they can serve as an orientation to students and provide a structure to everyday teaching in the classroom. Thus, they can influence students' behavior and save time for the tasks. Manage the time. The investment of time can be 2 or 3 times higher than in face-to-face course, and we all know it from first-hand. The amount of time required for adequate participation by both teachers and learners, and the optimal number of participants in an online classroom settings are important components to have in mind for effective classroom management, and furthermore in eTwinning projects. Techniques like flipping the classroom, mind mapping, self-learning, instructional design, adaptive learning can be efficient when teaching online, and especially with eTwinning. Of course, bear in mind that a little bit of scheduling between partner teachers, a lot of keeping track and making time for what's important outside of the online classroom can help make it one of the all-time great ways to live your life as well. Establish, of course, norms of communication. The sudden transformation of face-to-face to the online teaching gave the floor to unexpected incidents to occur. Background noise, cameras on, discussion contributing ahead of time are some of interrupting situations that teachers have to handle with. But eTwinners are trained to cope with these incidents. They even train their students using different online platforms for synchronous and asynchronous communication. Teach your students, of course, about plagiarism. The massive use of the internet and its resources in teaching and learning from distance lately highlighted the fact that the students have an impressive access to everything goes beyond their textbooks. To tackle the temptation of copying everything that exists in the web, students should be taught about plagiarism and the consequences of using the online resources without citation and license. eTwinners do know how to engage their students in inquiry learning with the respect of copyright and the creation and use of their own project products. Praise your students. Did you stop for a while during the online teaching to think, how are you going to praise students for their achievement? It is not possible to high five with them or to see their smile and content when they are productive and engaged. Instead, you may find other ways for acknowledgement and congratulations. eTwinners usually create badges, cartoons, stars, virtual applause, and songs to praise their students. You are eTwinners, you may find a lot of other ways to do it. Because, as Whitney Gordon states, positive reinforcement yields higher engagement, and higher engagement is the key to a well-managed online classroom. So, what do you say? Are we going furthermore to tips?
Okay. Thank you, Angelique. Based on research, as Angelique said before, and our own eTwinning experience of remote and blended learning and teaching, we could share some advice that could make teaching from a distance more effective through using eTwinning. You probably do most of these things. Make the most out of the eTwinning projects you design and implement to enhance student participation and encourage active learning. You could tick that. Communication and collaboration are fundamental in twinning projects. Exploit them further in your online class. Design activities or quick tasks that foster project-students interaction, both with the content and each other. Build an online learning community for you and your students. To build an online learning community, you need a shared goal, a platform for communication and collaboration, a set of rules and norms to make the interaction meaningful and productive. But wait a minute, all these can't be found in an eTwinning project. The shared goal, the communication, collaboration, set of rules and norms. So it would be better and easier to build upon your existing eTwinning community. Collaborate with your students and project partners to extend the project contract to your online classroom and vice versa. Start with what you have. Design an online project contract, namely an agreement for project norms, rules, and consequences, TwinSpace and etiquette, for example. During your first online meeting with partners. To achieve ultimate student ownership, all the partners should participate in developing the contract and agree upon it. Familiarize yourself with the platform you use. There are lots of tricks and tips related to the use of the TwinSpace platform. There are lots of features that one needs to study in order to find or experiment in order to find them. The TwinSpace is an easy choice for us eTwinners. You and we already know the platform, and then selectively use the bits and pieces that work for us and our students. To manage your online classroom and your eTwinning project effectively, customize your activities. For example, there should be icebreakers, sharing and presentation activities, collaboration and production activities. Keep your activities simple, or break complicated activities into shorter, simpler ones. Give clear instructions to your students, clear and simple instructions to project students overall. Use a weekly journal, a calendar, and a participation chart. All three of them are really important in the online classroom and in an eTwinning project. I would suggest Google Workspace for Education, which is a set of Google tools and services that are tailored for schools and homeschools and include all these: weekly journal, calendar, and participation chart. Build as you go along, experimenting and repeating what works, discarding what doesn't. Be proactive, plan ahead to make up for the time and learning lost due to technical problems, for example, due to loss of connection. Set measurable learning objectives and engage your students with these objectives. Stay in contact with your students. Use TwinMail and an app such as Viber or Remind. Make sure that your students know you miss them when they are absent. Remember to greet them by name at the beginning of class and say goodbye when they leave. Have your students stay in contact with your partners. And let me show you some examples here. That's to stay in contact with your partners. They can interact in the forums and topics they have suggested themselves. As you can see in this example, it's very important that they suggest and choose the topics that they are going to use to interact with their partners. They can also interact on their partners' walls or set chat dates to get to know each other using the chat tool outside class time. Let's find out which techniques and strategies are the most popular among you eTwinners. Which ones do you use in eTwinning projects? There is going to be a link. Yes, thank you very much, Marta. There is a link now in the chat box, and you can go there to Poll Everywhere. You can select up to 3 of the choices there. You don't need to submit. Just click on the option and your response is automatically added to the responses repository. If you change your mind, just clear your response and it's automatically subtracted from the responses repository. You can select just 3 techniques or strategies. We're waiting for your answers, your responses. Thank you very much for participating. And Paul, everywhere here in the poll, there is a list of techniques. We haven't included all the techniques and strategies that we have described here. You can see some of them which we consider very important. And actually, this is a PDF, and we can't see the results. Maybe Angelique, you could go on with the presentation, and after we're both done, I can share my screen and show the results of the poll for the participants. In the meantime, you can post, you can choose your responses, choose the techniques and strategies that you like best, that you prefer in your own class.
Okay,
Angelique?
I can go on.
Thank you.
Educators learned a very good lesson due to the pandemic and school closures this year. Distance learning is not simply a matter of changing the way we transfer knowledge to our students, but finding ways to bring all aspects of the school experience to their homes. While educators are looking for opportunities to reinvent the curriculum, gamify it, flip the classroom, or introduce project-based learning, they have to search for creative ways to assess online learning. Assessment methods are being used by educators both in face-to-face and to distance teaching in order to identify the areas for improvement and ensure that the course content meets learning needs. And of course, we have here a Mentimeter for you, one more poll. What types of assessments or tools do you use in remote teaching? Because we can specify online assessments as an ongoing formative assessment, summative assessment, and in school, by the teachers and pupils, and you can go on using the Mentimeter. Just give me a second to post it in the chat box. Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Marta, so much. Thank you. Thank you. You can use the code there and paste 3 or 4 of your ideas about the types of assessment you use with your students. Students' involvement in online discussion, students' engagement in discussion that can help them go deeper on knowledge acquisition and cultivate their critical thinking skills, use of technology. These are the online assessments that Paloff and Pratt suggest. And of course, researchers state that there is no need for educators to reinvent totally traditional formative assessment, but to follow practical steps while creating it. For example, let me go. Yes, not exactly here, but let's see for the moment. Let's make a full stop here to see what, yes, you use in your remote teaching strategies like Google Classroom, Google Forms, given written feedback, dialogues, quizzes, and Class Dojo. And yes, several, I can see here you post also several tools that you use as web tools to create games and web tools to create online questionnaires and live worksheets and online platforms. And thank you so much for your insights, and maybe we can share the cloud with you later on. Let's go back to the presentation, and you have to link the assessment with the course of or project objectives, add assessment in every part of online classroom, and of course have in mind that all these assessment methods and techniques you use are mapping from low to high order skills. For example, knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Having all these steps in mind when planning a formative assessment, we can use several strategies for powerful insights of students' learning and progress. Peer assessment, self-assessment, e-portfolios, learning journals, online discussion, and where you can do it, of course, in the TwinSpace projects. And how, using all the TwinSpace tools and Web 2.0 tools, and of course, eTwinning Live. When engaging your students on peer assessment, you provide them opportunities to reflect upon their learning, develop lifelong skills while giving constructive feedback and improve peer connections. When you encourage your students in self-understanding practices, you allow them to evaluate their personal level of knowledge acquisition. Encouraging your students to self-reflect, you create opportunities for them to think about what they may need to revisit to get a better understanding of the learning material and how they could put the acquired knowledge into practice. When you use e-portfolios, you can check students' progress at any time by assessing the final product as a conclusion of a learning unit. Using the ongoing collection of writing for learning, you encourage the writing for the purpose of learning. In learning journals, students usually write about their own learning. This constant writing, which may have the form of a simple Word document or even more the form of a blog, an online diary, with extensions of video or voice recordings, can serve as a source of formative assessment. Online discussion, when you encourage online discussions among your students, and even more when you do it in eTwinning with the partners from abroad, you may want to facilitate it via a synchronous or an asynchronous way. This is the meeting point of the TwinSpace tools for that purpose. Discussion boards and, of course, Web 2.0 tools or the eTwinning Live for teachers. Or you may want to monitor it in real time. Let's see some kind of examples. Here you can see Web 2.0 tools. This is a curation during a project implementation, and of course you can use here the TwinSpace tools, the chat room, or the live event, either in the TwinSpace platform or in the eTwinning Live. Let's go now to the types of assessment. Online quizzes. Ideal for measuring the learning results across a wide audience. Although online quizzes have some disadvantages, like the fact that they measure, in general, knowledge acquisition and not its application, or that may not align with lesson objectives and give students the floor to cheat, they also have some important advantages, like they are short and easy to assess. They can take a number of forms, such as multiple choice, fill in the blanks, and hotspots. They can help students improve their performance in the lesson. They can help educators gauge how students are learning and compare the results from different classes. Rubrics as an assessment tool with a measurement system which is based on specific criteria can serve to evaluate an assignment in face-to-face, hybrid or online class. They can be used for a variety of assignments, either from teachers or and from students, like online discussion groups, research papers, and so on. Written assignments engage students in writing short essays, research papers, or even case study responses, individually or in small groups. And we in eTwinning all know that our students can do it. And that they can help have an eye to their progress, but also to build a community spirit even online. Let's see here some examples of these mentioned types. Here is polls, online polls, a kind of rubric, a poll in eTwinning and also in Answer Garden, a poll or a kind of survey using Google Forms, and of course using meeting words. We can write essays, we can write for example, here students from 2 partner countries are writing rules for the netiquette in the Twin Space and the eTwinning project. Other types of assessment are matching exercises, which are going one step beyond from true and false questions. And you can use the matching exercises, enabling students in matching 2 sets of data. Concept maps as a visual representation between concepts that students have learned. They can enable them to organize and structure information and the relationships between them. And of course, as mentioned earlier, online polls are a way to increase interaction. And of course, game activities are a great resource for practicing recently learned ideas and knowledges. It is well known that people learn better when they play, because game-based assessments are considered fun. Who doesn't want to play? I do. And let's see here some examples of these aforementioned types of assessment. Here you can see an example of a game created with the Genially Web 2.0 tool, and could be printed or played online. This is a kind of matching exercise, and this is concept map created by partner teachers during this period of the pandemic, using the Zoom platform, while students of both countries were at home, were teaching and learning at home. And let's focus now on some assessment tips that you should have in mind. What matters the most is the relevance to the objectives and goals of the online lesson, the pertinence with the level of the lesson content, the clarified instructions. And of course, the following tips from both educators and researchers may be helpful when planning your online assessment. Test competence, not students' memories, because assessment should be about what students can do. Use synchronous technologies when appropriate to communicate with students in real time. Make sure that your assessments helps your students to develop a sense of confidence. Look for opportunities to provide feedback to the entire class. Use Q&A, questions and answers, discussion boards, giving students the floor to express common questions. Prepare the final assessment covering all of the learning outcomes included in the online lesson. And of course, use the proper online tools that help you and your students keep track on learning. And let's go one step. Of course, you can see here a lot of assessment tools that you should have in your box while planning your assessment, for quizzes, for rubrics, for games, for online polls, for concept maps, matching exercises, and written assignments. Of course, maybe you know more than me and Natalia gathered here, and they could write in the chat box as well. But when we teach online, we should have in mind also social and emotional learning. So how do you embed social and emotional learning in your online classroom? There is a talk wall for you with dedicated code to go there and post your ideas. Let me share them with you. So this is the talk wall, and the code is 1758. 1758. Okay, so go there to the talk wall and post the ways you use to embed social and emotional learning in your classroom, because we all know it is very important. And as far as you can click on join, and of course add your ideas there. 1758. Okay. And while you keep going on writing your ideas about social and emotional learning, let's dive deeper into this. Managing effectively your online classroom involves more than creative ways for online assessment. Undoubtedly, there are also other skills, not cognitive ones, that have long-term effects on students' life, like self-confidence, the ability to work well with others, attitudes towards learning, control over one's emotions. And when social and emotional learning is embedded in the curriculum, and of course in the eTwinning projects, it can reduce aggression and emotional distress, increase positive attitudes in schools, and improve behavior, and of course improve students' academic performance. It is worth exploring some tips to cope with student stress and anxiety in the online classroom and to give positive feedback. For that purpose, the educator, let me move the slide. The educator should focus on creating environments that promote a positive sense of well-being and healthy connections between peers, encouraging secure relationships and emotional safety, encouraging reflection. Students' responses on what is stressful about school and what aspects about school help you feel calm, create a safe space for students to discuss their feelings. Building an online community and having students meet to work in small groups like we all do in eTwinning projects, like international groups, thus fostering a deeper level of connection and communication. Involving students in collaborative projects through shared documents to strengthen skills in collaboration and relationship building, strong bonds, lasting connections. Encouraging students to participate in role plays in order to solve possible conflicts, and of course generating open-ended questions that require young people to reflect on their personal experience and feelings to strengthen self-awareness and communication. That is crucial tips that you should have in mind when teaching online, and even more when developing eTwinning projects in the times of Corona, and not only. So that is for me, and Natalia, we thank you very much for being here with us today. And
thank you, Angelique. And I would like to thank the participants for submitting so many posts on the Lino. Maybe it would be possible for me to share my screen so that we can see what's on the challenges board, and then we take a look at the presentation and see what's on the which techniques and strategies are the most popular. And then, Angelique, you can share your screen and take a look at the results on the other two tools that we have used during the presentation.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Yes, Natalia. Meanwhile, I would suggest that in case I saw that you already replied to the question that we had in the chat, so that's great. But
Yeah,
in case
maybe.
participants
Yeah.
have other questions, post them in the chat while you're sharing the results of the tools.
Yeah, it seems that I'm in sharing mode, so I can go on and share my screen. Okay. There was I didn't I could, my memory is a bit of had a bit of a problem, and I couldn't retain the name. There was a question about the use of anchor charts, what they are and what we can do with them. Anchor charts, think of them more or less like posters or infographics. Think of a poster on my wall, for example, as a tool, and there you can collect all the rules that you think that your students should know about, I don't know, about a particular phenomenon in science, or a grammar rule, or when it comes to the twin space, an anchor chart could include the netiquette rules that the project partner should follow. This is usually used in an ordinary classroom, an in-person classroom, but we can also create a similar one for our twin space. This is the liner.
Natalia,
Yes, I think that you can see it now.
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
We can see it.
I would like to personally thank everybody who got to this canvas and posted a response. I'd like to mention some of these responses. Sarah from Turkey, she said that the children do not like being seated anymore. They don't like being sitting in front of a computer anymore, which is I think everybody's experience now. Dilek says that they are unwilling to do that. Lucia from Italy mentions the lack of infrastructure. There are lack of devices, and this is not true only of Italy. I think it's true of all European countries and beyond. There is a fellow eTwinner from Jordan, Gatter. I hope I'm not mispronouncing that too much. Mentions lack of feedback. It's not easy anymore to give the proper feedback to our students in the online classroom. It's more difficult than the ordinary one, in the in-person one. Alina from Romania mentions digital literacy. Teachers and students had to become a lot better at using tools. They had to learn new stuff, both teachers and students. So it's not only for the digital immigrants, but it's true for the digital natives as well. And also Kostadina from Greece, she mentioned something about parents' intervention, the fact that actually when we teach, maybe it's true of Greece, I don't know about other countries, but when we teach in the same room with our students, there are other parents who usually intervene, some of them, not all of them, of course. Thank you very much for the challenges that you posted. And here is the presentation, and let's take a look at which techniques and strategies are the most popular among eTwinners. I find it. Okay, present, and I think now we can see the results. Okay, here it is. So gamified activities are the most popular, it's the most popular technique that we can use in the online classroom. Most teachers agree on that, and I suppose they are influenced by their students and they chose this particular technique. And second one is e-books, YouTube clips, videos and pictures, everything that has these are more visually appealing and they attract our students' attention, motivate them. That's true. So that's all from me. I'll stop sharing my screen and
I would like to share the screen to show all the results that came up from the Mentimeter. And okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Is it visible? Okay. As you can see, you posted here kind of assessment strategies that you use apart from Web 2.0 tools, puzzles, and forums, and web tools, and the blended learning, and the TwinSpace, and the Mentimeter, and several tools that I told you earlier that me and Natalia gathered some, but you are more familiar with a lot of other tools. And let's see now what you have written in the talk wall. Apostolia, for example, wrote here that she needs time for academic to search academic material and focus on how students interact with each other. Susanna, she focuses on the approach of the topics that interest students and direct the questioning, taking into account the personality of students. Play activity in the younger age group, Hafize creating a motivational and cooperational environment, even face-to-face or online. Of course, all of us try to do it. So Apostolia wrote again that she teaches them how to work in groups and negotiate with others, and find out other strengths and weaknesses, and of course talk about emotions. Always we talk about emotions in our classrooms. How do you feel? And of course learning is fun. Yes, we all agree that learning is fun. Discussion on case studies, presenting motivational films. In fact, I also had a film club today. I had to cancel to be here with you, and students like very much even being in online classroom. In WebEx, and watching a film with me, eating popcorn and drinking juice, and I think it's wonderful to watch films with them. And you send to the students good words and stickers, yes, of course, to motivate them and to praise them that they did an excellent work as you did today, interacting with us. And we thank you so much for being here today and listen to Natalia and me. Thank you. And we thank you also the Central Support Service for inviting us to hold this webinar.
So thank you very much, Angelique and Natalia. It was a pleasure for us to have you here. So just one small information for the participants. I have already posted the feedback form in the chat, but please, if you didn't save it, just save the link before we close, and then you can complete the feedback form also after. And my colleague Eleonora just posted another time in the chat. So thank you very much for the inspiring presentation. It was a pleasure really to have you here today with us. We hope to see you soon again, but I'm sure we will see you soon again. I know you're really involved in eTwinning in this period, which is great. And thank you to all the participants for joining us today. I wish you all a good evening, and thank you very much. Bye, everyone.